Oh, that should be. Is there a way to make it just a slide? Yeah. Open a freaking window. Thank you, Paul. You do realize it's not locked, right? He's got a key on him. I don't know how to shut the fan off. We all work for the same company, Tara. I can see this mind either open. That's good.
Are these on now?
There you go.
How do you do that?
They also.
They're all the same price,
Okay, and you have yours.
but everyone's the same price. Yes. Cindy, can you let them know they're coming in at 12:30 tonight? Yeah, I looked it up.
I was like this.
I'm like, no.
Oh, no. 12:30.
Oh, that's.
When you guys are in executive.
Are we gonna have pop-off before?
If I could. Couple. That's great.
Call to order with the pledge of allegiance. Approval of minutes, Board of Education meeting, motion to approve the minutes of the September 15th, 2024 Board of Education meeting. Motion by Tara. Second by Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Okay. Motion to accept the CSC, CPSC 504 report. Second. Commissioner Toro, second by myself. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Carried. We do have, I know, one agenda change. We're going to move our Item for discussion A to right after the presentation. So just the, number 8A is going to be right before, right after our Tetra Tech at our schoolhouse.
But before executive,
Before executive. Oh, and, okay.
we're gonna add, well, we're gonna talk about that. in the executive meeting.
So we do everything after, yeah. All right. Okay, so,
Yeah,
okay. Financials, we have the general fund, the school lunch fund, the lunch report, and the extracurricular fund for August and September that we were able to review in our packets this week. Are there any questions for Stephanie?
Stephanie, I just had one, in the general fund, I noticed that there was a New York State taxation and then an IRS. The two of them, 14 days apart.
Yes, every weekday, every week.
When is the IRS? That, okay. Proportionally, it seems higher, so it's not that. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Stephanie, did you have anything to point out to us? Okay, so we have presentation from Tetra Tech
it's good.
and Schoolhouse, so you're gonna do it at the same time?
Well, I think schoolhouse is gonna come in that part of it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Handling from Tetra Tech. Tonight I have with me Eric Rivera from Schoolhouse Construction. And I will present on the conference record. We also have Frank Morehouse, maybe some of you really glad Frank led the team to get up to speed. I saw Eric and Frank go over the drawings. So, you're looking at an element or? So, I just have a couple of slides tonight. And we might just get one, and I can do the whole presentation.
I can see them. Let's bring them. Take them for it.
Everybody wants to go.
Yeah, Mr. Finley, way beyond that. That would have looked like.
So I want to start with some really good news. This was the timeline for the project when we were in the pre-referendum phase. So a year and a half ago, we had anticipated that we would vote in 2025, and then we would redesign it, and we would go to SCD, and back at that point, the last essentially to take the bottom, SCD design to completely unreliable. So that red section there was what we were thinking was going to be, and it's turned out to be it's going to be much shorter. So if we can go to the next slide, this is the revised schedule, and you might notice that the construction phase moved from 2027 to 2026. And frankly, this is a little unusual. I've been doing this for 2 decades now, and it's very rare that I come to the board and say, oh, it looks like we're going to be a year ahead of schedule. In this situation, it doesn't look. There's a really good chance that we're going to be a year ahead of schedule. So we did accelerate the design a little bit, so we can make sure we get it in the SCD. It's going to, the project is fully designed at this point and ready to go to the state for their review, and now we're going at the end of this year. So the designs for SCD, for the technical review, the architects and the engineers, really 1 to 2 weeks. It takes another month or so to get the fiscal associated, that used to be called project manager at SCD. So we're saying that maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, maybe see SCD. At that point, we'll be able to lock it. The anticipation is to take sometime in January or in February or March. So, if that all comes to fruition, it'll be under construction this summer. And done, kind of ambitious to think we're going to have every single piece of construction done before the end of this summer. So something that maybe in the school year a little bit. But I'm confident and feel pretty good that we're going to see construction complete by the end of the year. So, any questions on this? You good? Okay, good. We go to the next slide. So, this is an image. Sorry, but this is the third floor science wing, and if you remember, a lot of rooms that's on the downside on the lower portion of the screen is really currently 3 rooms, and we're going to take all 3 of those rooms and that stretch it over and turn it into 2 really perfect state-of-the-art science rooms with a prep room in the middle. I'm going to show you some other images of these later that show some furniture and stuff like that, but those rooms are really almost exactly the way we imagined. They're very major impact to those images I had before. The one thing that did happen on the left of the 2 science rooms is a small sort of triangular trapezoidal room. That's going to be a multi-purpose room. That's a combination of storage. It could have some teaching activities. Have some office activities. We'll have a door into the science room, so it could have a connectivity to the science room, but it will also have a door on the corridor, so it could be completely separate as well. And one other thing to point out is in the prep room, that's the room between the 2 science rooms. There's a door on the corridor that the people who come into that room, adults, teachers, faculty, can do that room from the corridor and use that space purposely in the science rooms. But then there are doors that lead to the science rooms too. So that's going to be, obviously the future space for these that we really need to space. Any questions on that side of the corridor? Okay. On the other side, please.
The little rectangles, are those lab stations?
The little rectangles along the bottom.
Yeah.
For 6.
6. Okay.
Yeah. And then the lab stations are going to be made up of the furniture.
Okay.
We'll show you that in a minute, but basically we can put the tables together and then we want the traditional lab tables for us, but it can also be used for the classroom setting as well. Any other questions? I gotta say, this is really exciting. These science rooms for this one, they're going to serve the district well for years and years. Okay, so across the hall, this is a little different than what you may remember from the images that we have seen in the past. So currently, there are 2 rooms, well, there are 3 rooms across the hall. What we were going to do is take half of the language room and assign that to be another full-size science room. But as we went through the design process, and as we went through sort of carefully looking at the budget, and Eric's going to talk about estimating the budget in the next slide, we really felt like the money was best spent across the hall, and the science room, single science room, sort of making a larger science room, using that abstract to make it a science white, which I think is the phrase that we've been using along the way. But just for the display footprint of the classroom, that's going to be really cost effective for you. So a little different than what we had originally planned, but I think, based on conversations with the district, we're all feeling like this is it's a sound decision to good one. Now, one other thing I want to add is, Eric's going to talk about his firm's process of estimating the project. We're involved in the pre-referendum budgeting, but since then, we've got a lot more detail, and so there are some budget concerns, some pressure on the budget, and so what we are recommending as a professional team together is that the science room across the hall be bid as a Still doing the project, but the contractors gave us separate pricing. And on midday, assuming we have enough money for everything, we can award that. But if we have some budget challenges, we can have a conversation about maybe only on that single science one. I give you a mouthful of stuff. What questions do you have before I hand over?
The one question I had was your last comment about the potential to finish or not finish off the design team. But would the perimeter walls be set and just a matter of finishing the inside?
Yeah, so, what we're planning on doing is all work in that science room will be did as an office. There are multiple contractors because it's waste law, so there's a general contractor, electric department, so each of the trades would have an alternate. But in total, either that will get done or it will get done. If it doesn't get done, it's really no other upgrades that might happen, kind of as it is. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. That's
Great. Did you have any questions? Yeah, we're doing that. I guess I got a lot faster.
Okay, next slide, too.
Great.
Okay, there's a lot of little numbers there. I'll say, first, thank you so much for having us this evening. Greatly appreciate you being with you and to be involved with delivering your project. In regards to the cost evaluation that we're looking at, our sister company, Upstate Estimating, was engaged to evaluate the cost and the market conditions that we're aware of and such. And I'm going to go through this in a little bit of detail and then back up a little bit and kind of talk about market conditions, tariffs, so on and so forth. But as you look at this estimate here, you'll see a number of columns kind of from left to right. First we see a description of the work area, and then you'll see different contractors listed here. There's general. I can move this Sorry. So first you'll see general construction, mechanical, plumbing, electrical. For state projects in New York State, they fall what's known as Rick's Law, where school districts are required to hire multiple prime contractors. So these would be many of the prime contractors that the work would be bid out to, and then the respective cost for each one of those. That represents your project with the exception of the generators. The generators are listed in the bottom right-hand box titled bid alternates, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But moving down, if you look at the various rows, you'll be able to see that we're taking into consideration escalation that comes into play. We do have some tariff factors that are applied. Those are changing every day. If you're watching the news, is what I tell our clients. Design contingency. So this evaluation that, Garrett, is it safe to say 50, 60% or 60% of the design?
Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about good alternates.
There you go.
Okay, great. So the design contingency is to help bring us from where we are now, and as Garrett's team works to get to the full design for submission to state ed, that contingency will be used as the scope may adjust a little bit during that process. We'll do another evaluation of the cost as that design is submitted to state ed, so we know before we're ready to bid and so forth. General conditions, general requirements, those are the overhead costs that the contractors have when they're on site. We have field directed allowance funding. That's for miscellaneous things that may pop up during construction. It's a form of contingency that's embedded into the contract. So we open up a wall, we find the A word being, more asbestos that we weren't aware of, and we're able to proceed and take care of it, and not have the contractor stop working anyway. Then we have a slight bid contingency that's applied, and then you can see the opinion of probable cost for the respective contracts. The box on the bottom left is an overall snapshot of the financials. So the budget summary is showing what your referendum amount was, the estimate of hard cost of the work above. We have a standalone construction contingency figure. And then the next line is titled incidental budget or soft costs. We're the guilty parties to that, along with Tetra Tech. There's a number of other parties involved, the legal counsel, the financial advisors, bonding and such that come into play is what represents that value. And then you can see a slight shortfall there of the negative 153 rate. And then to the right were some bid alternates that we had identified at the time of preparing this estimate, where we have the generators are the big ones in here. We're showing an approximate cost for what a diesel generator would represent, and then also what a propane generator would represent cost. Often asked, why is there a difference in the cost factor there? They're the same electrical output. The gas generators are a little bit more costly. They're often more preferred, I think from an environmental perspective, but to produce the same amount of output, a gas generator needs to have a larger engine than a diesel generator. So that makes up a lot of the cost differential there. And then also we broke out what the standalone cost would be for a fume hood. Right now we have a couple of fume hoods in the science rooms. There's been a little bit of a discussion about what if you were to go with just one and not both and so forth. So that was broken out as a separate item. So to step back from those details just a little bit, our estimators, they evaluate this from a mid-range cost, and it's a little bit of a crystal ball effect. They don't want to try to pretend to be who that low bidder is or who the high bidder is. They're targeting to have that middle range valuation. There are contingencies here in planning. We had a conversation earlier today when I was at the facilities committee about how pricing can fluctuate so quite a bit actually in the North Country based on the market conditions. We actually just did a project not too far away in Granville, quite a larger project, and the bids came in approximately 15% under our cost evaluation. Contractors are hungry, it was a good time to bid, and we had an extra $1.5 million to work with at the end of that. That sounds really good. I wish I could promise that to you tonight. I can't. What I can promise to you is that this is a respectable evaluation for us to plan with. And part of that planning goes back to what Eric mentioned, and that's to protect our bid with bid alternates. And I know many of you are familiar with what bid alternates are, but just to kind of recap, we're looking to take the project and break out a couple of components as standalone items that are priced separately. So when we receive bids, if the bids are if they're favorable, we can easily add those in on bid day. On the flip side, if the bids are not favorable, we can take those items away and still preserve the project and move forward in a positive way. So that's what we're looking to do with this evaluation is prepare for that future.
Thank you. Questions? I just have one question there. So between the, well, basically 1 year, May 28, 2026, the escalation is 20%. Do they do materials? Is that mainly the tariff cost?
I don't know if it's quite 20%, but yes, they have gone up, and a lot of that is a culprit of tariffs.
Not a surprise, like, so there you have, but.
And then, we're hopeful that the murky waters will clear out between now and the new bid. But just when we think things are getting better, sometimes you're surprised and watch the news. So you just get
Other questions, comments, thoughts?
So something I'd just like to add briefly is, one thing we'll do is help ensure that the district is getting the best bid response that's available in the area. Both of our firms have worked with a number of neighboring districts in the North Country. We have our pulse on the contractors that are attracted to the rural areas. And when it's time to bid, we're going to be conducting a lot of outreach with those companies and try to get as many companies interested as possible.
Right. So my wife says it's coming out. Actually, I'm kind of working on that optimism. But in this kind of moment, I think the important thing is to be with realists, because we don't know what's happening, even though it's just a couple months away. And so this is sort of a raising our hand, saying we want to be careful, we want to be careful, but we haven't really made any major changes to the project. Just all we're doing is breaking out things to get stuff in place. The one change we did do is downsize the science light. Which frankly, I think is a good decision. It's probably better decision one to not add that. So, is this something that you need to lose sleep over? No, not at all. It's something that we need to be careful of when we manage it, but this is not a alarm bell that says internationally, challenge crime. It's just a statement of we want to be careful, because what we don't want to do is wake up after the bid in whatever time frame, July, January, February, and have to do it. Because that throws everything out of whack. Now we're coming to the bid market for what it is. And, that's the thing we usually don't know. So it's a little more work for us to build alternatives at this point, but it's something we do. Hopefully we're going to be great on the day. We won't know. Life and the one on the wall. Hopefully that's
There might be some people on the board that were on the board when we did this project and are close to it and spoiling that over
this
for the project and everything like that.
always have to administrate, so hopefully we can do that. And, like Eric said, you saw this happen in Greenville. Our companies have worked together for many years. George is another good example. We had a very similar conversation before the George Foster I came out to bid. We built a bunch of alternates, and at the end of the day, they did it all. So, that's not a promise, but it is a good piece.
I'm going to say, at least I'm assuming you also built an alternate and have not taken it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And some realistically, there might be somebody good. So if we go to the next slide, we can just talk about here are the alternates that we're actually recommending. So the additional classroom and cost of that. That's an all or nothing moment. So that's a pretty good sample. The emergency generator, we're saying it's an alternate, but we know that's a kind of must do in this community. So that's sort of on the list as a fail Mary. Really, really in trouble when face that, but hopefully you won't have to. The other thing to say about the generators is we've designed it as a piece of generator. It's less expensive. It's still a great generator. We sell along with the piece of generator. If we did great on it today, and my wife would say, Derek, we do some options. One thing that we could do is having reject the generator bid. We could then put it out for propane generator and make it that. So I don't want to put too much hope in it, but I do want to just temper the fact that there's some good reason to think about the generators and alternate without feeling like we're not being consistent with the messaging going to the community, I guess is the best way to say it. And then the last thing is there's a theme hood for science work in both of the science groups. And those two science groups are identical, but there's not really a need for a high priority for two communities. So we're suggesting it's a small element, but there's one of the room with the panel. This is something that we can easily add to the room down the road, basically. So that's a pretty good alternate because it's a little smaller, so there's some kind of minor fine tuning adjustment, and it's a super easy add later on.
The other thing I'll add is that, to give credit to the building committee, they're the ones who were all getting together with Kara and Eric. And, the whole idea of making it into a regular sized room for the third, science, realizing that we're really looking at that as possibly being a place elementary could go. So it made a lot of sense, especially if you look out at our enrollment coming up. So that was able to cut some costs without even going to alter, at that point. So the building is good.
All right, any more questions before we move on? All right, we'll go to the next slide. These are just enlargements of the science room, and there's very one more slide about science room across the hall as well. But you can see along the bottom what was asked about before that was saying. So in this configuration, both the rooms are set up in lab configuration, so the tables are a pair of rectangles with little circles on the side for students. And we see this as a standard Minnesota style science room. Those tables are casters, they're easy to just click, reorient, and then all of a sudden you've got classroom stuff, and the teaching wall, on the corridor side there. And so it's a great switch between that and these spaces. All the science needs are up to code, up to standards, chemical storage, rooms, venting, all that stuff. It's all part of the design. That's pretty much it. We're going to work across the hall too. So this is same kind of thing, just a little less basement. It's going to be on the left-hand side of the room here, a few things. And then this, these tables are just set up in this sort of group work area, but they can also easily just turn in case the teaching wall and things like that as well. One thing I will say is we had a lot of discussion about the demonstration table for the teachers, because years ago, when we were all in the science room, there was a fixed science table up front, like gas, water, all that. In these rooms and in the current sort of educational process, most districts aren't doing that. They're having movable teacher stations. So I just want to put that out. There's a lot of extra flexibility in the room. And we spent a lot of time talking to teachers about that. And then one more slide. So next steps, we're going to SCD as soon as we can, by the end of the month for sure. SCD your approval and the award. The award is a board action, as I'm sure you're all aware of, so we'll be back to formalize the award with that for construction and everything. One of the big things for this construction project is getting the casework, the cabinetry order right away, because it's really long. So that's going to be one that we will contract with us get orders. And that's it.
Any other questions? Okay. Yeah, we can see the-
Okay, great. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move, A. Right now for visitor comments. So motion to accept the following resolution authorizing the expenditure for the repair reserve fund. Yep.
So let's do a motion and then we'll do a discussion.
Motion by Tara. Second by Erwin. All in favor? Discussion. discussion, and now we want Paul.
So your domestic hot water tank, for those who don't know, that Paul there said, when you got here, I started from Roseville. So the domestic hot water tank, is approximately 25 years old. We had a reconnected property revenue. So that have about the further, and we had a tank. Very specific unit, it's 175 gallon tank, it's approximately 400,000 BTUs, providing 145 degrees water in that tank. Right, so it's 100, it has to create 145 degree water for 10 inches of purposes. So it's a holding tank, then we mix it with cold water, and then back out to 120 degrees for any fixture not in the kitchen. Because in the kitchen, there's a hot water booster tank, it's back up to 180 degrees. In addition to the hot water tank leaking, there is also that separate valve that's mounted. There are also two circulating pumps that are supposed to circulate hot water throughout the building. So that anytime anyone wants to use an appliance or a fixture, if you press the hot water and it takes 3 to 5 seconds, there should be warm water there, 120 degrees. So we're hoping not much of that. So if you hold the hot water on the third floor, you can hold it open for 1 mile or you get hot water.
Also, it's not recirculating.
That is not circulating. We have an engineer in here, on the service record, who actually did the first repair, and he addressed the entire issue. So these aren't working, that's not working, this is still leaking. And we've got good water. That's not very good.
This leak has been going on for a while, correct?
Are we in any danger of not being able to provide what the kitchen needs? I mean, up until this point, like, as of this morning, is the kitchen still able to?
Absolutely, yes, we have no problem with that. It's been running fine, Karen, and the leaking thing, we either repaired, to make sure that there's no leaking, but it works fine. So you still have hot water for how long? I'm not gonna say, no, I'm not, it's not going to go for long. But definitely needs to be addressed sooner than later.
Well, now maybe you want to talk about the bid or the process of this, or the answer that you found out you got.
So I reached out to any all plumbing meetings, servicing, businesses, I know we have 3 bids. Specifically, I contacted Mark Gordon, I had Cozy Energy, we have the bids on.
Yep.
To hold it on to?
All the minutes of that.
No, oh my God, I just tried for the 4th bid, I've not gotten that. Gordon, Cozy Energy, Stance combustion. So Stance has been one of the vendors that we've used in the past. Our company was very quick to respond when we needed that first week fixed. I contacted them, they got right back to me. Stance, their bid came in potentially higher than what our order did, and then further energy was a bit more than that, provide everybody with. Okay, and so it could be quite costly to do it, it's not just your average hot water tank for $200,000. So we've done the 3-bid process, we contacted 3 vendors to repair work, they're willing to, schedule it, they understand the need for this to be done, probably going to be something done either early one, holiday break, so you can always have to think of it, so it's within.
So what we're doing is we're coming to the board because the bids are coming in around $90,000, maybe a little bit less, but right around that. All 3 bids, Paul did a great job at getting them to finally bid on the same fixes. Some started just bidding the tanks, some, the circulators. But I feel that we were getting really to the point where they're bidding on kind of the same things. But the process that we're coming to you guys for is we want to use the money out of the building reserve repair account. We have right now about $290,000 in that account, and the feeling is that would be the appropriate place, to get it. But in order for us to use that money, we have to have board approval. This is one that has board approval, not community approval. We placed that in there years ago, so there is that pot of money. I also today, in a conversation with Garrett, he pointed out that I probably should be calling state ed, and we might be able to get it under an emergency repair. And if you get it under an emergency repair, we would get building aid on it, which is different than just our regular MEC repair.
Seems like a no-brainer, I mean, you can't come out. I mean, if you did fail tomorrow, would you have to close?
I would have actually would have to close.
We don't say that, I would figure something out.
Not much, long term, but for a couple of days, we still got to get how you move forward.
And I seem to recall when we were talking about this fund in the past, I think you even cited, like what if the hot water tank blows out?
I do not say
You know what I mean? Something like that, that
Right.
is what that money is for.
Yeah, that's considered for.
How does that money get replaced?
It doesn't. Matter of fact, that's one of the accounts, I've always liked having it there because of these things. But if you remember, our auditor frequently recommends that we do not keep money in that account, that we're really supposed to be trying to zero that account out. Makes me a little uneasy because now we can get $90,000 from there and not feel the pinch on our budget. But he really wants to see, if not depleted completely, earmarked for certain things that happen. So.
Okay, anybody any other questions? Thank you. Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstained? Carries. Okay. So now we'll move back to our visitor comments. So now we're going to move to our executive session, moving to adjourn to an executive session for a personnel hiring. Motion by Tara, second by Sarah. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Abstained? Carries.